Hey, yeah, hi, it's your mom here with Your Mom Tries, where today I'm going to tell you about a try that I recently did where I went to a local amusement park called Lagoon here in Utah. I've been there a lot before, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about this recent try, whereas I'm at my heaviest now, I tried to fit into some seats, and I'm going to be vulnerable and tell you a little bit about that. So let's get going. Okay, so this video today will go into my body shape a little bit and some of the weight struggles that I've had. So as a content warning, if that's not something that you feel you want to approach at this time, skip this video. That's absolutely fine. So to start out, I'll let you know just a little bit about Lagoon. I looked it up and it was originally called Lake Park, and it was in a different location along the Great Salt Lake here in Utah. In 1886 is when that first opened. In 1899, they moved it to Farmington and renamed it Lagoon because of a gorgeous pond that was in that area, which the pond still exists today. I think it's shrunk quite a bit though, and it's not part of the Lagoon attractions as much. One of the main staples and historical parts about Lagoon is their carousel. It's a Victorian era carousel with hand-carved horses that are original to it and other characters. I remember riding it when I was a kid and looking up and seeing all of the gears and just thinking about how magical it was. It felt like those classic ones from movies or like in Mary Poppins. In 1921, they built the wooden roller coaster there. It's had many different names. I knew it growing up as the white roller coaster. They've since have been replacing the white bits, so it's no longer white, so they just call it the roller coaster. But it's a classic wooden roller coaster with lots of turns and thrills. I love the sounds. I love the feeling of that roller coaster. Okay, let's go into my history of Lagoon. I remember going as a young kid, maybe with some cousins. It was a special day. We didn't go all of the time, but we would probably go once a year, once every other year, midsummer to celebrate maybe a birthday or something like that. Some really great memories of going on the little kid rides like Puff the Magic Dragon, or the little boats, the helicopters, getting to drive your car the first time on one of those tracks. So many amazing memories from Lagoon when I was young. As a mom of two small kids, I also went to Lagoon. We had season passes and would go maybe as much as once a week to Lagoon to ride rides. Usually during that part of my life, I was not riding on as many rides, but shepherding kids around from ride to ride. But sometimes there would still be the opportunity with the older cousin kids to go on rides, or maybe leave your kids somewhere and go on a ride yourself. So I do remember riding some of the rides, especially like the newer ones that were coming out during that time in the early 2000s and 2010s. A lot of fun memories of that. I wasn't quite as big as I am now, but I don't remember ever not fitting into any seats or anything like that, but still having those worries, right? As a plus size person, I've been a size as little as down to maybe 14 or 16 within the past couple years, and as much up to maybe a 20, 22 size in women's. So my weight has fluctuated, my size has fluctuated, and it always kind of was a worry about whether or not I would fit into rides, even back when I was, like just 190 90 pounds, 180 pounds, just because I think that's just a common worry. You see maybe people on YouTube making fun of people not being able to fit, or that secondhand embarrassment if you see somebody not being able to fit, and it causes me anxiety and stress. But you know, this channel is all about pushing through that anxiety, trying to find the logic through that anxiety. What that anxiety has served me in the past was not having social embarrassment. But social embarrassment really isn't dangerous. Anxiety isn't needed for me at that point. It's just more like how I'm being perceived by other people that it's trying to protect me from. But screw that, because if I want to ride a ride, I'm gonna go try. So that was very much my attitude when I went this past week. I did go with my older kids and some of my family members who were adults. So we got to do all the big kid fun rides. The first ride that we did for the day was Cannibal, which is a little bit of a newer ride, and it is fantastic. I get heart palpitations. I get nervous just thinking about it. It's a lot of fun ride. But again, this time I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I know kind of what the seat is, but I was worried that I wasn't going to fit. During the line, they did have like a section, check your fit. So I wandered over to that, but there were kids playing on the seat that you're supposed to check your fit, because that might save you some embarrassment, right? If any of the rides have an example, a sample of what their seat is, I think that should be standard and it's helpful, and there shouldn't be any shame around going over there. But kids were playing. I got anxious. I didn't want to ask if I could slip in there, because they would know, seeing my body size, why I'm testing my fit. So we approached the ride. I get in, kind of feels like a little weird on my back. Like I'm not fitting quite in to it. It's a lap, like it pulls up from in between your feet and up to your lap. And I fit, and I rode the ride, and it was fantastic. And I was really scared, but again, I'm not gonna let anxiety stop me from doing the things I want anymore. As much as I can, I'm gonna try to push through that. We continued on with the day. Rides like the Bat were a little bit snug, but I was able to fit. A newer ride called the Spider, same thing, little snug, little awkward to get in and out of, especially if I had to crawl over a seat. That was a little bit harder. Wicked, I didn't have an issue getting into, a little bit newer ride, but one of the older rides that I really love is called Rollercoaster. It's a Ferris wheel, but it's enclosed and caged in. And you have a seatbelt that comes across your lap, and then attached to that seatbelt as well is a hard bar that comes across. So there's a little bit of forgiveness within the seatbelt fabric portion, but not with the metal hard bar that comes across and then latches to the outside of essentially your cage, where you're sitting. And a worker needs to enclose that so that it doesn't move around. I first tried to go with my teen daughter. Two of us did not fit. It was a little bit embarrassing. We tried squishing down. The worker helped a little bit, and it wasn't gonna work. So I wanted to kind of go hide in a hole right then, but I got out and went to the next one and got in individually. And that is what ended up working for me. It still was a little snug, I ain't gonna lie, just by myself. But I rode the ride. It's really fun. There's a lot of spinning in it, but spinning like backwards. And I really like that ride. It makes you feel like you're floating at certain points if you can do it just right. And I had fun, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And looking back on it, nobody's gonna remember the girl who got in with their kid and didn't fit and then had to go sit on their own. And even if I had to walk down without riding the ride, they're not thinking about me today. So why should I be thinking about that today as well? So I'm trying to push through some of those things that would have stopped me in the past. The only ride I did not do, which I don't know, maybe my anxiety stopped me, but also I remember going on, it's the swings is what we call them. You sit in like a wicker type chair. I'm sure it's stronger than wicker, but that's what it reminds me of. And then it spins on its axis. And again, you kind of feel like you're flying and floating many feet above the air, and as the centrifugal force is coming around. I remember a few years ago going and being like, ooh, this is tight. This is tight across my lap. And I'm kind of spilling out of the edges, and I didn't like that. It was not comfortable. So I chose not to go on it because I had that memory. I had that distinct memory of perhaps when I was a few pounds even lighter, not fitting. So I just didn't want to push it. So I sat off of that ride. But I don't know if any of you have ever had experience with the swings as a more plus size person. Love to hear if maybe they've upgraded their chairs. Maybe some of them are a little bit wider. I don't know. The next one I want to tell you about is the roller coaster. It's over 100 years old. It's pretty unforgiving for your size. I feel like the newer ones maybe have a little bit more forgiveness for size sometimes, but the old ones, they're just not built for large plus size people. So the roller coaster, you sit 2 by 2, but you have your own individual lap bar that needs to reach a certain point in order for it to lock. Again, I love this ride. I kind of knew, hey, it might be a little precarious for me to get into it, but I was going to give it a shot and go. I sat next to my teen daughter. I saw her lap belt come down and then lock, and she wasn't able to push it back forward. So I knew I needed to get to that point, right? Like that's the mechanism for this. And I couldn't get it all the way down. And in an act of desperation, I looked over at my child and was like, help me push down. So we did. We both pressed down kind of hard into kind of like my belly area, which I guess is nice that I have a little bit of softness there to be able to press into. And we got it to lock, and I was able to ride that ride, which was great. But again, man, it's those few moments where you don't know that if you're gonna fit or not can be really scary. Okay, let's talk about my favorite ride at Lagoon. It's about maybe 20 years old, maybe not even that. I remember it being kind of new with my kids. And the big push, I think, at Lagoon and maybe other places is little kid rides that aren't too scary, but that an adult can go and sit by, right? A lot of kids don't like being sent off on their own at particular ages to go and sit. So if you can design a ride where an adult can sit next to you and still be safe, and the kid can sit next to you and be safe, it makes for really fun memories. And I remember this ride being really fun with my kids, my nieces, and my nephews. And that ride is the Ladybug Bop.
Sam, what are we doing? Ladybug Bop. Ladybug Bop. Whose favorite ride is it?
Definitely not mine.
It's fun. I love it.
And it's ladybug themed, and it's kind of like a tower that you sit in individual seats, and they go all around the tower, bring you up and drop you. So it could be like maybe the Disneyland Tower of Terror. We also have another ride at Lagoon called Blast Off and Re-Entry, where it plays with that G-force and that dropping mechanism. And every single time I go on Ladybug Bop, I feel what we call like the tummy tickles. And so I think it's a lot of fun without having to deal with super high anxiety that you're super high up in the air. You still get a really fun thrill and some good laughs out of it. So enjoy some footage of me and my 17-year-old on the Ladybug Bop.
We're almost done.
I should have reapplied my sunscreen.
Oh, we should have.
That was 4 people and a lot of little people.
Can I drop my shoes? Can I
No.
take them off?
No. Every time.
Every time.
I mean, we're up here. It's high.
I love how like slow it goes up. That's my favorite part.
I guess you can't do that.
What up?
Right, so that about wraps up our day. I think Lagoon is pretty good. Always has been expensive. So yes, it kind of is a out of reach for a lot of people. And it has been out of reach for me in and out of the years to be able to afford even a day pass for there. But it was pretty fun. And as a larger person, in my size, that was my experience with the fit of the rides. I would really love to see more check your fit available at all rides, and maybe some size guides where we have a lot of height guides on the website or in the park information, but there's not a lot of information about accommodating for larger passengers, which also makes me think about accommodating for passengers with all sorts of different type of body types and maybe disabilities that they're dealing with. And so more information on that would be, I think, really helpful, as well as, you know, talking to your kids about if you do see somebody that, you know, gets kicked off a ride because of you suspect it's because of their weight, about talking to them with gentleness about what that might feel like for that person. I think that would be helpful. And then if you see it, a situation like that, try to have gentle thoughts in your own mind too, surrounding that person. And we never know why someone is that body shape that they are, big, skinny, or not. We don't know what their day-to-day looks like. So let's try not to make assumptions about any of those fatphobic ideas that we might have, and just encounter each human with kindness. Okay, thanks for coming along this journey with me and allowing me to express some of my feelings on trying to fit into different seats at Lagoon at my local amusement park. And remember, all tries are good tries. Thanks.